Strikes on Iran escalate. Venezuela quake toll rises. Typhoon Bavi batters Asia. And India boosts defense ties. Greetings, humanity. Let's grok the news. We cover the world's headlines, but first, a deep dive into the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Tehran. The United States and Iran exchanged fresh strikes overnight as the fragile interim ceasefire over the Strait of Hormuz continued to unravel. A ceasefire in name only. U.S. Central Command confirmed American forces hit Iranian coastal defenses, missile sites, and command centers near Bandar Abbas and Bushehr. Officials described the operation as a direct response to Iranian attacks on commercial vessels in the critical waterway. President Trump stated the preliminary agreement signed last month is effectively over. He announced the reimposition of a naval blockade on Iranian ports and floated briefly a 20% fee on all cargo transiting the strait. Trump called the United States the guardian of this vital passage. 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas shipments normally move through these waters. Disruptions have already pushed energy prices higher on world markets. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps fired back with drones and missiles targeting the U.S.-linked facilities in Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, and Oman. Iranian state media reported explosions and claimed the actions defended somehow against American aggression. Tehran insists it controls access to the strait and claims to have closed it to unauthorized ships. The U.S. rejects that claim and says commercial traffic must continue unimpeded. Shipping data shows vessel movements remain far below normal. Several tankers sustained damage in recent days, including one that caught fire, with one crew member still missing. This escalation follows weeks of fragile diplomacy after the 14-point Memorandum of Understanding aimed at ending months of conflict. That deal allowed limited Iranian oil sales and promised safer navigation, but implementation disputes quickly, in fact, immediately surfaced. Iran accused Washington of bad faith, while American officials said Tehran failed to guarantee safe passage. Mediators from Oman, Qatar, and the European nations continue with quiet talks, but public statements from both capitals show little to no compromise. In Tehran, large crowds were once again gathered to mark ongoing, unending mourning for slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Hardline voices demanded stronger resistance. Iran's economy, already strained by sanctions and war damage, now faces even deeper pressure. Gulf allies expressed concern, but avoided direct involvement. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates reported intercepting incoming projectiles. European leaders urged restraint, as always, warning that full resumption of hostilities could spike global inflation. China, a major buyer of Iranian oil, called for calm and respect for international shipping lanes. Pentagon spokespeople stressed the U.S. strikes were limited and focused on degrading threats to mariners. No American casualties were reported in this latest round of conflict. Intelligence assessments indicate Iran retains significant capabilities despite the hits. Analysts caution the cycle could widen without a breakthrough. The situation remains highly fluid. Commercial operators reroute or delay voyages. Global supply chains watch closely. Any prolonged closure would ripple through energy markets worldwide. Negotiators from multiple countries are pressing for de-escalation behind the scenes. For now, the exchanges continue testing the limits of diplomacy in one of the world's most dangerous flashpoints. In the opinion of this observer, it's better just to finish the job. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to truthfully summarize the news. And of course, obviously, you get my opinion, but I try to make that obvious. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. M.S. Gardner. You've heard of her. That's my wife. Well, she's the author of Wolf's Bane. Now, that's a dark, serious, modern take on an old fairy tale, a page-turning Southern Gothic story for adults. Wolf's Bane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com or amazon.com. Now, we grok the news with headlines from around the world. Dateline Caracas. Venezuelan officials say the death toll from last month's powerful twin earthquakes now exceeds 3,500 recovered, with thousands still missing. Rescue teams search rubble in La Guaira and near Caracas, where buildings collapsed after the magnitude 7.2 and 7.5 tremors. International aid, including, of course, American personnel, is helping as the health risks rise in crowded shelters. Dateline Manila. In the Philippines, Typhoon Bavi has caused deadly landslides and flooding in Mindanao, killing at least 17 people, with others still missing. The huge storm later affected Taiwan and Japan's southern islands before making landfall in eastern China, where nearly 2 million residents evacuated. Power outages and flight cancellations have disrupted wide areas. Dateline Kiev, Ukraine. Russian missiles and drone barrages killed dozens across Ukraine, including strikes on the capital. Ukrainian forces hit back with long-range attacks on Russian oil facilities. President Volodymyr Zelensky appointed a new defense minister after proposing a new prime minister amid ongoing political pressures at home. This observer finds that the Ukrainian conflict has been the most avoidable and perhaps one of the most heartbreaking wars of the last century. Dateline Tokyo. Japan and India agreed on their first joint military technology project to develop advanced radar systems for naval ships. Leaders signed the deal during recent high-level talks to deepen defense cooperation between the two democracies, facing shared regional challenges. That means facing China. Dateline Jakarta, Indonesia. During his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India finalized major defense agreements with Indonesia, covering BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles and related technology transfers. The pact aims to boost maritime security cooperation between these two strategic partners. Once again, they're worried about China. Dateline Canberra, Australia. Australia and India have sealed a landmark uranium export deal during Modi's trip while expanding defense and critical minerals partnerships. The agreement strengthens supply chain security and support clean energy goals for both nations. Dateline Beijing. China achieved its first successful landing of a reusable rocket, now matching recent private American efforts. Well, by that, Grok means Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and their rockets flying up and landing again, and now China is the third. State media presented the milestone as important progress in the country's growing space program capabilities. And it is a great milestone. Dateline Islamabad, Pakistan. Pakistani forces reported killing 75 insurgents in operations across Baluchistan in that province after a series of deadly attacks. Authorities pledged to continue pressure on militant groups in the troubled southwestern region. Dateline Berlin, Germany. That severe European heat wave broke temperature records in Germany, with temperatures reaching 41.7 degrees Celsius. That's 107 degrees for my American listeners. France reported hundreds of excessive deaths linked to the extreme conditions affecting vulnerable populations. This observer recommends air conditioning, like America. Dateline Madrid. A large wildfire in southern Spain killed at least 12 more people, with several more reported missing. Firefighters struggled against strong winds as residents evacuated zones near Almeria in the affected region. Dateline Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. A helicopter operated by Saudi Aramco crashed near the Ras Tanura oil facility, killing 14 nationals. State media confirmed the incident as investigators worked to determine the cause of the crash. Dateline Seoul, South Korea. SK Hynix has completed a record $26.5 billion share sale on U.S. markets. The transaction marks the largest debut by any foreign company listed on NASDAQ. Dateline Bandung, Indonesia. Indonesian researchers restarted the Triga 2000 reactor to advance nuclear science projects. Officials said the move will support radioisotope production and medical applications in the country. Dateline Singapore. Singapore plans to welcome workers from East Timor under a new labor agreement. Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said that the pact will help address domestic manpower needs during the ASEAN chair transition. Dateline Myanmar. ASEAN representatives met with Myanmar opposition figures in Thailand, drawing criticism from advocacy groups. Observers question whether the bloc's adjusted stance will help or hinder democratic reforms in that troubled nation. Dateline New Delhi. India's Enforcement Directorate conducted raids on trusts and seminaries in West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh. Authorities cited concerns over alleged facilitation of illegal infiltration activities. Dateline Impal, India. Additional Central Reserve Police Force units have been deployed in Manipur to manage ongoing Naga-Kuki tensions. Officials aim to prevent further violence in the sensitive northeastern state. Dateline Tokyo. Japanese authorities acknowledged rising espionage risks linked to foreign activities. Officials announced enhanced measures to safeguard sensitive technologies and national security information. Dateline Manila. The Philippine Senate began the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Lawmakers emphasized the proceedings will focus on accountability and conduct in public office. And finally, Dateline Canberra. Australia has introduced new regulations for artificial intelligence data centers, covering power use and copyright issues. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has highlighted the need to balance innovations with creative protections. Well, this observer finds that most of the laws being proposed in Australia and Europe seem to be more about controlling access by the population rather than ensuring safe use. It's hard to say. But I thank you for listening. Please join me Monday to once again Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.